Article 7.
Article 7.
Article 7.
Article 7 is on everyone's mind these days, with MEPs in the European Parliament recommending the start of a punitive procedure against Hungary. Whereas only last December, Article 7 was launched against Poland, as Brussels and Warsaw are on a collision course over the government's proposed judicial reforms. But what is Article 7? Let's have a look. To join the European Union, countries have to meet basic membership rules on democracy, governance and human rights, the so-called Copenhagen criteria. Article 7 is the main mechanism for ensuring that the EU values are upheld. They are enshrined in Article 2 of the Treaty of the European Union.
Article 2 of the treaty reads: "The Union is founded on the values of respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law and respect for human rights, including the rights of persons belonging to a minority. These values are common to the member states in a society with which pluralism, non-discrimination, tolerance, justice, solidarity and equality between women and men prevail."
Since it came into force 19 years ago with the Treaty of Amsterdam, Article 7 gives the EU the ability to take punitive action against any country that persistently and seriously breaches the EU's fundamental values. At its most extreme, the procedure can lead to the suspension of voting rights in the EU, a reason why it is also dubbed by some the nuclear option. As the procedure allows each of the bloc's three governing institutions, the European Commission, the European Parliament and the European Council, to propose action against a country over alleged violations of common laws and values, there are three steps to be followed. First, the mechanism begins with a proposal to find a clear risk of a serious breach of EU values, either by the Commission, the European Parliament or 1/3 of member states in the European Council. This is then approved by a 2/3 majority in Parliament. Afterwards, the accused country is called to explain itself in the European Council, which may then issue recommendations and vote by 4/5 majority to identify a breach. If they are still not satisfied and a serious and persistent breach is identified, for example when the country in question ignores the Council's guidance, the Commission or 1/3 of member states supported by a 2/3 majority in Parliament calls the country to answer before the European Council again. EU leaders must then decide by unanimity whether they want to proceed to the final stage. Once there's unanimity that the severe breach is still happening, the 27 may vote by qualified majority to impose sanctions, including a suspension of the member states' voting rights, until misconducts are reversed. Although rights can be suspended, in the end there's no mechanism to expel a member state. So far, Article 7 has never been used to its fullest. The political alliances to obtain the required majorities are too difficult to obtain, and the possible political fallout could be too toxic. Because of that, questionable leaders of questionable countries usually bet that it will never be fully used. But the tide may be turning, so let's see what the future holds.